Welcome back, everybody. I'm Dr. Craig Malkin, clinical psychologist and lecturer for Harvard Medical School. I'm also the author of Rethinking Narcissism, which is devoted to helping you understand and cope with narcissism in all its forms and all your relationships. I want to talk about a fourth face of narcissism. In my previous video, I spoke about the three types, and this is a fourth that wasn't able to fit into that one video. So let me tell you about malignant narcissism today. You may already have heard of it. I have seen the term popping up and becoming more and more a part of the conversation. So I want to be really clear about what it is today. It is distinct from narcissism and narcissistic personality disorder, because you really want to think of it as a conglomeration of pathological traits. Theorist named Otto Kernberg, whom I write about in Rethinking Narcissism, really thought of it as sort of a Frankenstein's monster of different parts of character all glued together. And that really is a very helpful way to think about it. Very often when people are talking about being in extraordinarily abusive relationships with somebody who seems very intentional and planful about it, calculating, they're really talking about somebody who has malignant narcissism, which is not an official diagnosis, probably partly because it is so complex and it involves many different aspects of many different traits. Where does it come from? Well, the source of pathological narcissism and malignant narcissism really all comes down to one thing, and that is entitlement. If you have read any of my previous work or have you seen my videos, entitlement, is acting as if the world or people should bend to our will. And it turns out that as people become more and more entitled, other traits sort of emerge from that as well. Triple E emerges from it. I write about this as well. Triple E is exploitation, which is doing whatever it takes to feel special no matter the cost to others. Entitlement, which we've just discussed, and empathy impairments. What happens is as exploitation and entitlement go up, people become more and more blind to the needs and feelings of others. Exploitation and entitlement together explain all of the very worst behaviors of even just garden variety narcissists, that is, people who are high in the traits who don't qualify for a diagnosis of narcissistic personality disorder. The higher the EE, exploitation and entitlement go, according to many, many research studies, the more you see aggression, physical aggression, the more you see emotional aggression, the more you see all kinds of unpleasant behaviors, even sabotage in the workplace. Entitlement solves a particular problem for people who are extremely narcissistic. If you think about what narcissism is, and remember across my work I explain narcissism you want to think of as the drive to feel special, exceptional, or unique. And that requires people interacting with us. And if somebody who's extremely narcissistic needs that, which is often called a narcissistic supply, they have a real problem because people may not cooperate. People who are extremely narcissistic are uncomfortable depending on others. To the extent that you depend on feeling special, you will not depend on people in mutually caring and connected ways. It's really about bypassing any kind of vulnerability of having to truly depend on others. Ask them for things and maybe I'll hear no. Turn to them and maybe they won't be there. And if I can sustain a sense of feeling good, if somebody who's extremely narcissistic goes about it that way, uses narcissism as a defense like that, then they don't really have to turn to people. They can do sort of an end run around the whole problem. Entitlement helps people feel like, well, if I'm just owed, if this is just what should happen, then I can do whatever I want. This is as it should be. So I can do whatever it takes, no matter the cost to others, exploitation, entitlement. I don't have to think about how they're feeling because after all, this is what I'm owed. So you can see how entitlement drives all of this. The other thing that happens is people become more entitled and exploitative is that you start to see other traits of what are called the dark tetrad traits. Narcissism I've already mentioned, that's one of them. The first, psychopathy, is one of the traits. That is a cold, remorseless pattern of lies and manipulation. These are people who might lie to you about any number of things, have affairs, stealing money, and they will look you in the eye, and they have no remorse if they're caught. As people become more psychopathic, Machiavellianism, which you can think of as a cold chess playing approach to life and relationships. And finally, sadism, which is taking delight in other people's pain. So you can see all of these are about using people in some way. And the more intense those traits come, they all kind of come together in the way Kernberg was talking about. And then you see malignant narcissism. And malignant narcissism is really narcissism in its most dangerous form. These are people so driven to feel special, exceptional to the rest of the 7 billion people on the planet that it really doesn't matter what happens to other people or even how they have to go about it. And this is very often what people are talking about when they talk about narcissists, and they're describing somebody who is so intentional, so careful about smear campaigns, about making sure they get what they want or need. This is really malignant narcissism, and I wanted to tell you about it and make a distinction, because the more aware you are of the cluster of 4 traits, the easier it is to be clear about, okay, well, how dangerous are these behaviors? How dangerous is this pattern? That's one reason. But the other is that if you're aware of those kinds of patterns in yourself, have any self-awareness at all, I want you to know how it operates and where it comes from. That is the entitlement that's meant to bypass really depending on people. So you can address it in some way, because it is addressable. And as long as you're aware of it, you can do something about it. So I hope that's helpful. And if you like it, give it a big thumbs up. Go ahead and ring the bell too if you want to get notifications as soon as my videos come out. I'm going to be sharing more, and I look forward to sharing with you then. Thanks.